The year is 1887, and the Toledo Blue Stockings baseball team has done the unthinkable. They've signed on Moses Fleetwood Walker and his brother Walday, two African-American players. White players are outraged. League officials segregate baseball teams, creating a color line. And though this color line doesn't prove to be foolproof, the policy remains in place for 60 years until Jackie Robinson is signed to the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. Robinson didn't just pave the way for African Americans in baseball, though. After retiring from baseball, Robinson continued to fight for racial equality, serving on the board of the NAACP for 10 years, and marching with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. As the history of racial segregation in baseball demonstrates, athletes from marginalized groups have battled racism, sexism, homophobia, and other prejudices in order to compete as equals on the field. But their progress does not stop where the bleachers do. Through challenging the injustices of American society in sports, these individuals have helped pave the way for a more equal United States as a whole. These are their stories. Born in 1878, Jack Johnson knew firsthand the hardships of being a black man in Jim Crow America. To help make ends meet, he took up boxing, and in 1908, after challenging and defeating Tommy Burns, Johnson became the first black man to become the world heavyweight champion. In response to Johnson's victory, and his multiple intimate relationships with white women, White America called for a great white hope to defeat Johnson. These great white hopes, however, weren't the only threat to his reign. In 1912, Johnson was arrested for violating the Mann Act after he was caught transporting a white woman, his wife-to-be, across state lines. Despite pressure from both in and outside the ring, Johnson held on to his title until 1915, paving the way for future black boxers, such as Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali. Race hasn't been the only basis for discrimination in the world of sports, though. More recently, issues related to gender and sexuality, issues which challenge an idea of hegemonic masculinity in sports, have taken center stage.
Michael, are you a gay man?
I am a gay man, and I'm happy to be one.
In February 2014, former University of Missouri defensive end Michael Sam made this announcement, which was met by a rally of support from teammates, players, and even a high-ranking Catholic leader, Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Sam's announcement coincides with a recent turn in LGBT rights. However, homosexual athletes in the 1970s and the 1980s battled for their acceptance in sport, both on the field and in the courtroom. In 1975, the Washington Star published a story on the experiences of homosexuals in sports, a story which caused the Star to receive copious amounts of hate mail. In response, retired NFL player Dave Kopay came out as gay in an interview with the Star, and later published a book, titled The David Kopay Story, about his career as a closeted athlete. The book inspired gay and women's rights activist Billie Jean King. King, a tennis champion, founded the Women's Tennis Association and to this day advocates for female and LGBT athletes. In 1976, Renee Richards, born Richard Raskind, was barred from competing in the U.S. Open by the United States Tennis Association because she was transsexual.
Renee Richards has become the source of international controversy. Is she male or is she female?
I'm a woman like everyone else. Ask me how the match went instead.
The USTA feared that because she had formerly been a man, Richards would have an unfair advantage in the competition. Richards disputed the ban on the grounds that she was female, and doctors testified that she would have no unfair advantage over other women since her muscle-to-fat ratio, weight, height, and build were within the norms for females. Her case reached the New York Supreme Court, who decided to lift her ban and allowed her to play the following year. Richard's case is evidence of how cultural definitions of gender and sexuality have hindered acceptance and participation in sports. Arguably, the USTA started the sex determination test to stop people like Richards from playing, as the idea of sex reassignment was still taboo. While individuals like Michael Sam have encountered support, other modern athletes, such as Caster Semenya, continue to battle discrimination based on gender and sexuality. In 2009, the International Association of Athletics Federations made the South African track runner take a gender verification test based on her deep voice, muscular physique, and dramatic time improvement in a recent competition. The incident illustrates the continuing trend of questioning the abilities of female athletes when they are perceived as too masculine, as well as the emphasis placed on the gender identity of athletes who challenge the idea of hegemonic masculinity. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals." When athletes like Jack Johnson stepped into the ring against racism, or when Renee Richards took transphobia to court, they challenged cultural norms of their time and sought to redefine what it means to be an athlete. While discrimination is still present in professional sports, the stories of athletes like Johnson and Richards set a precedent for greater equality on the field. Progress has been made.